What happens when a seasoned actor comes face to face with tough questions he clearly doesn't want to answer? What we witnessed on the Today Show was nothing short of explosive. Taylor Kitsch, known for his roles in Friday Night Lights and Battleship, found himself in the hot seat with Craig Melvin, and things went sideways fast. This wasn't your typical morning show fluff piece about upcoming projects and favorite coffee orders. This was raw, this was real, and this was uncomfortable television at its finest. Before we dive into this incredible clash, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think really triggered Kitsch's reaction. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this one because what unfolds is absolutely wild. The interview started innocently enough. Craig Melvin, with his characteristic professional demeanor, welcomed Taylor Kitsch to the show. The Canadian actor sat across from him, initially appearing relaxed and ready for what most guests assume will be a straightforward promotional interview. But Melvin had other plans. "Taylor, great to have you here on the Today Show," Melvin began with that familiar morning television warmth. "You've had quite the career trajectory, from small-town Canadian hockey player to Hollywood leading man. But I want to talk about something that's been making headlines recently." You could see the shift in Kitsch's body language immediately. That easy smile faltered for just a moment, replaced by something more guarded. "Sure, Craig. What's on your mind?" "Well, there have been some reports about your behavior on set during your latest project. Former co-workers have come forward with some pretty serious allegations about your conduct. Care to address those?" The temperature in that studio dropped about 10 degrees. Kitsch's jaw tightened, and you could practically see the wheels turning in his head as he processed what was happening. This wasn't the promotional interview he'd signed up for. This was an ambush, and Craig Melvin had just fired the opening shot. "I'm sorry, what allegations exactly are we talking about here?" Kitsch's voice had that edge to it now, the kind that comes when someone realizes they've walked into a trap. Melvin didn't back down. "Reports of unprofessional behavior, verbal altercations with crew members showing up late to set. These are serious accusations that could affect your reputation in the industry." "Hold on just a minute," Kitsch interrupted, his Canadian politeness starting to crack. "I came here to talk about my new film, not to defend myself against unnamed sources and gossip. Who exactly made these allegations? I can't reveal our sources, but multiple people have come forward independently with similar stories about your conduct." This is where things really started to heat up. Kitsch leaned forward in his chair, his eyes narrowing as he stared down the veteran journalist. "So you're ambushing me on live television with anonymous accusations that I can't even properly respond to because you won't tell me who's making them? That's your idea of journalism?" Melvin maintained his composure, but you could see he was ready for this fight. "Taylor, these are legitimate concerns that have been brought to our attention. The public has a right to know about the character of the people they're supporting at the box office. The public has a right to know the truth, not tabloid garbage dressed up as news," Kitsch shot back, his voice rising slightly. "You want to talk about character? Let's talk about the character it takes to blindside someone with unsubstantiated claims on national television." The tension was palpable. Craig Melvin, seasoned professional that he is, pressed on. "Are you saying these reports are completely false?" "I'm saying I don't even know what specific reports you're talking about because you're being deliberately vague. You're asking me to defend myself against shadows." "All right, let me be more specific then," Melvin said, consulting his notes. "According to our sources, you allegedly had a heated confrontation with a director about script changes, used inappropriate language with crew members, and on one occasion walked off set mid-scene." Kitsch's face was turning red now. You could see the anger building behind his eyes. "And these sources, they have names? They have proof? Or are we just taking their word for it because it makes for good television?" "As I mentioned, we protect our sources, but we have verified these accounts through multiple channels. Multiple channels of gossip and hearsay, Kitsch countered. This is exactly what's wrong with entertainment journalism today. You take rumors, dress them up as facts, and then put people in impossible positions where they have to defend themselves against things that may never have happened. The back and forth was getting more intense by the minute. Melvin wasn't backing down, and Kitsch was clearly reaching his breaking point. What happened next would change the entire dynamic of the interview and create one of the most talked-about morning television moments in recent memory. Craig Melvin sensed he had hit a nerve, and like any experienced journalist, he doubled down. "Taylor, your reaction here is quite telling. If these allegations are baseless, why are you getting so defensive?" That question was like throwing gasoline on a fire. Kitsch's eyes flashed with anger. "Defensive? I'm not being defensive, Craig. I'm being rational. You're asking me to prove a negative. How exactly does someone prove they didn't do something when you won't even tell them what they supposedly did or who's making the accusation?" "I've given you specific examples," Melvin replied coolly. "The confrontation with the director, the inappropriate language, walking off set. Are you denying these incidents occurred?" "I'm denying your characterization of them," Kitsch said, his voice getting harder. "Yes, I had creative differences with a director. That's called collaboration. Yes, I use colorful language sometimes. We're making movies, not running a Sunday school. And yes, I've left set when I felt my time was being wasted. That's called having standards." Melvin leaned back slightly, sensing he had his guest exactly where he wanted him. "So you're admitting to these behaviors but justifying them?" "I'm admitting to being a professional who takes his work seriously," Kitsch fired back. "What I'm not admitting to is being some kind of monster that your anonymous sources are painting me as. But don't you think there's a difference between taking work seriously and creating a hostile work environment?" This question clearly struck a chord. Kitsch's face went through a series of expressions, from anger to disbelief to something approaching rage. "A hostile work environment? Are you kidding me right now? Do you have any idea what actually happens on a film set? The pressure, the long hours, the millions of dollars at stake? Sometimes tempers flare. Sometimes people disagree. That's not hostile. That's human. But when multiple people independently report similar experiences with the same person, doesn't that suggest a pattern? It suggests people like to talk, especially when there's a reporter offering them a platform to do it anonymously," Kitsch shot back. "You know what I find interesting, Craig? You're so concerned about these alleged victims, but what about the victim sitting right here? What about my reputation that you're assassinating on live television based on gossip?" Melvin maintained his professional demeanor, but you could see he was enjoying this. "We're simply reporting what's been brought to our attention. This is how accountability works in the entertainment industry." "Accountability?" Kitsch laughed, but there was no humor in it. "This isn't accountability. This is a hit job. You invited me here under false pretenses to ambush me with tabloid accusations. Where's the accountability in that? Taylor, you're free to leave at any time if you're uncomfortable with the direction of this conversation." That comment was a mistake. A big mistake. You could see it the moment the words left Melvin's mouth. Kitsch's entire demeanor changed. The anger was still there, but now it was focused, controlled, dangerous. "Oh, so now you're trying to get me to storm out? Is that the plan here? Get me angry enough to walk away so you can run the story about how Taylor Kitsch can't handle tough questions?" "That's not my intention at all," Melvin replied, but his tone suggested otherwise. "Isn't it, though?" Kitsch pressed. "You ambush me with unverified accusations, refuse to provide specifics or sources, then suggest I leave when I call you out on it. This is textbook tabloid journalism disguised as legitimate news." The studio was electric at this point. You could feel the tension through the screen. Other guests scheduled for later segments were probably watching in the green tent, wondering if they should reconsider their appearances. "I understand you're frustrated," Melvin said, trying to regain control of the interview. "But these are legitimate questions that your fans and the industry have a right to ask. My fans have a right to hear about my work, my craft, my projects. They don't have a right to hear unsubstantiated gossip presented as fact by a morning show host who's clearly more interested in creating controversy than reporting news. Are you questioning my journalistic integrity?" "I'm questioning whether what you're doing right now even qualifies as journalism," Kitsch replied without hesitation. "Real journalists verify their sources, provide evidence, give their subjects a fair chance to respond to specific allegations. You've done none of that." Melvin's professional mask was starting to slip. "We have done our due diligence on this story." "Your due diligence? You mean collecting anonymous gossip and presenting it as news? If that's due diligence, then the bar for journalism has fallen pretty low." "I resent that characterization. And I resent being ambushed on national television with character assassination disguised as an interview," Kitsch fired back immediately. "At least we both resent something." The back and forth was becoming more heated with each exchange. You could see the producer in the background making frantic gestures, probably trying to figure out whether to cut to commercial or let this train wreck continue. The decision was about to be taken out of their hands entirely, because Taylor Kitsch was about to reach his absolute breaking point. Craig Melvin could sense he was losing control of the interview, so he decided to go for the jugular. "Taylor, let's talk about your recent projects. Some industry insiders have suggested that your reputation issues might be affecting your ability to get cast in major productions. Is that why you've been taking smaller roles lately?" The studio went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. That question crossed a line that probably shouldn't have been crossed, and everyone in that room knew it. Kitsch stared at Melvin for what felt like an eternity, his jaw clenched so tight you could see the muscles working. "Excuse me?" Kitsch's voice was dangerously quiet now. "Are you suggesting that my career choices are somehow validation of your unsubstantiated gossip?" "I'm simply asking about the correlation between these reports and your recent career trajectory." "The correlation?" Kitsch's voice was rising again. "You want to know about correlation, Craig? Let me tell you about correlation. The correlation between sensationalist journalism and the destruction of people's careers. The correlation between irresponsible reporting and real human consequences." Melvin pressed on, seemingly oblivious to the powder keg he was sitting next to. "But you have to admit, your recent roles have been significantly smaller than your earlier work in major productions, like Battleship and John Carter. My recent roles have been choices, Craig. Artistic choices. Something you might understand if you knew anything about the creative process instead of just trying to tear it down for ratings." "I'm not trying to tear anything down. I'm asking legitimate questions about your career." "Legitimate questions?" Kitsch was incredulous now. "You just implied that my career is failing because of anonymous accusations you won't even properly detail. How is that legitimate journalism? The entertainment industry is built on reputation, and when that reputation is called into question, it naturally affects opportunities." That was it. That was the moment Taylor Kitsch had enough. You could see something snap behind his eyes. The polite Canadian actor completely disappeared, replaced by someone who had been pushed too far. "You know what, Craig? You're absolutely right about one thing. Reputation matters in this industry. And right now you're destroying mine on national television based on nothing but gossip and innuendo. So let me ask you something. How does that feel? How does it feel to know that you're potentially ruining someone's livelihood for the sake of a sensational morning show segment?" "I'm simply doing my job as a journalist." "Your job as a journalist? Your job is to report facts, not spread rumors. Your job is to seek truth, not create controversy. Your job is to inform the public, not to ambush guests who came here in good faith." Melvin was getting defensive now. We invited you here to give you a platform to address these concerns. You invited me here under false pretenses, Kitsch shot back. Your people told my representatives this was going to be about my new film. Instead, you've turned it into a character assassination disguised as an interview. If you have nothing to hide, why are you so upset about answering these questions? If you have real evidence, why are you hiding behind anonymous sources? Kitsch countered immediately. If these allegations are so credible, why won't you provide specifics? Why? Won't you name names? Why won't you show proof? We protect our sources to maintain their credibility and safety. Their safety? Kitsch laughed bitterly. What about my safety? What about protecting me from false accusations? What about maintaining my credibility? Or does that not matter because it doesn't make for good television? The confrontation was reaching a fever pitch. You could see crew members in the background looking uncomfortable, probably wondering if they should intervene. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every heated exchange. Taylor, I understand you're emotional about this, but these are serious allegations that deserve to be addressed. I'm not emotional, I'm angry. There's a difference. I'm angry that you think you can destroy someone's reputation without consequences. I'm angry that you call this journalism. I'm angry that I trusted your show enough to come here and you've completely betrayed that trust. No one's trying to destroy your reputation. Really? Then what would you call what's happening right now? You've spent the last 15 minutes painting me as some kind of difficult, unprofessional actor based on anonymous sources and unverified claims. How is that not attempting to destroy my reputation? Melvin tried to regain control. We're simply trying to get your side of the story. My side of the story? You haven't given me a story to respond to. You've given me vague accusations and anonymous complaints. That's not journalism, Craig. That's gossip with better lighting. I think you're being unfair to the process here. Unfair to the process? Kitsch's voice was getting louder now. You want to talk about unfair? Unfair is ambushing someone on live television. Unfair is making accusations you can't back up. Unfair is hiding behind the shield of journalism to justify character assassination. The tension in the studio was absolutely crushing at this point. Everyone could sense that something was about to give, that this powder keg was about to explode in a way that would make morning television history. And they were right, because Taylor Kitsch was about to do something that would leave Craig Melvin, the Today Show, and everyone watching completely stunned. Craig Melvin made one final fatal mistake. Looking directly into the camera, he addressed the audience with that practiced morning show sincerity. Well, folks, as you can see, these are clearly sensitive topics for Taylor, and his reaction here today might give viewers some insight into the allegations we've been discussing. That did it. That absolutely did it. Taylor Kitsch's face went through a transformation that was almost frightening to watch. The anger, the frustration, the sense of betrayal, it all coalesced into something pure and explosive. Are you kidding me right now? Kitsch's voice was deadly quiet, more menacing than if he had been shouting. You just used my completely justified anger at your ambush tactics as evidence to support your baseless accusations? You just told your audience that my reaction to being blindsided somehow validates anonymous gossip? Melvin realized he had overplayed his hand. Taylor, I was simply making an observation. An observation? You just weaponized my emotional response to your unethical journalism against me. You turned my legitimate outrage into circumstantial evidence for claims you can't prove. That's not observation, Craig. That's manipulation. I think we should take a step back here. No. We're not taking any steps back. You just showed everyone watching exactly what kind of person you really are. You baited me, you ambushed me, and when I called you out on it, you used my reaction as proof that I'm the problem. That's sociopathic behavior disguised as journalism. The studio was in complete chaos now. You could see producers frantically signaling, trying to figure out how to handle what was rapidly becoming the most explosive morning television moment in recent memory. Taylor, I think there's been a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding here is that I thought I was dealing with a professional journalist instead of a tabloid hack with a morning show budget. Kitsch stood up from his chair, towering over the seated Melvin. You know what the real story is here, Craig. The real story is how low morning television has sunk. The real story is how a supposedly reputable show like The Today Show can invite someone under false pretenses and then ambush them with character assassination. Please sit down, let's discuss this professionally. Professionally? Kitsch laughed, but there was no humor in it whatsoever. You want to talk about professionalism now? After spending 20 minutes trying to destroy my reputation with anonymous sources and unverified claims? After turning my completely reasonable response to your ambush into evidence against me? Melvin was clearly out of his depth now. We can work through this. Work through this? There's nothing to work through, Craig. You've shown me exactly who you are and what this show represents. You've shown everyone watching that you're more interested in creating controversy than reporting truth. You've shown that you'll sacrifice someone's reputation for ratings. That's not fair. Fair? Kitsch's voice was getting louder again. You want to lecture me about fair after what you just did? You literally used my anger at being ambushed as evidence that the ambush was justified. That's not unfair, Craig. That's evil. The Canadian actor started reaching for his microphone, clearly preparing to remove it. You know what? I'm done. I'm done with this ambush disguised as an interview. I'm done with this character assassination disguised as journalism. And I'm done with you. Taylor, please don't leave. Let's finish this conversation like adults. Like adults? Kitsch paused in removing his mic to stare at Melvin with complete contempt. Adults don't ambush people on live television. Adults don't make accusations they can't back up. Adults don't use emotional manipulation to try to validate their gossip. You want to act like an adult, Craig? Start by apologizing to your audience for wasting their time with this tabloid garbage. I'm not going to apologize for doing my job. Your job? If this is your job, then you're terrible at it. Kitsch pulled the microphone completely off and dropped it on his chair. Your job is supposed to be informing the public, not misinforming them. Your job is supposed to be seeking truth, not spreading rumors. Your job is supposed to be holding people accountable with facts, not destroying them with gossip. Melvin made one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. Taylor, we still have time to have a productive conversation about your new film. Kitsch stopped dead in his tracks and turned around. For a moment it looked like he might sit back down. Instead he walked back toward Melvin, stopping just close enough to make the host visibly uncomfortable. A productive conversation? After you just spent 20 minutes trying to end my career with anonymous accusations? After you turned my justified anger into evidence against me? After you violated every principle of ethical journalism? You think we can just pivot to talking about my movie like nothing happened? We can try to move forward. The only thing I'm moving forward to is the exit, Kitsch said with finality. And I'm taking my dignity with me, which is more than I can say for anyone associated with this ambush. And with that, Taylor Kitsch walked off the Today Show set, leaving Craig Melvin sitting alone with the smoking ruins of what was supposed to be a routine promotional interview. The cameras kept rolling as Melvin struggled to regain his composure, the studio silent except for the sound of Kitsch's footsteps disappearing into the distance. What we witnessed was more than just a celebrity having a bad day. This was a masterclass in how not to conduct an interview, how quickly things can spiral out of control, and what happens when someone finally says, enough is enough to the machinery of modern media manipulation. So what do you think? Was Taylor Kitsch justified in his explosive reaction, or did he overreact to legitimate journalistic questioning? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns of the most dramatic moments in entertainment. The way this interview imploded raises serious questions about the ethics of ambush journalism and whether morning shows have crossed a line in their pursuit of ratings.